So this morning we are sitting in Luke 18, and there's a passage where Jesus heals a blind man, and I think I love this passage that celebrates the healing power of Christ, and I think there's also there's something for us in that. I think this gives us kind of like a little snapshot of the hope that God has um, for coming to us in order to heal and restore, but also inviting us to participate in that process. So this is Luke 18, verse 35. As he approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard a crowd going by, he asked what was happening. They told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. And then he shouted, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Those who were in front sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he shouted even more loudly, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood still and ordered the man to be brought to him. And when he came near, he asked him, what do you want me to do for you? He said, Lord, let me see again. And Jesus said to him, receive your sight. Your faith has saved you. Immediately he regained his sight and followed him, glorifying God, and all the people, when they saw it, praised God. So I think there's something interesting in here. The two phrases that Jesus says, the first is this: what do you want me to do for you? And after the blind man says, let me see again, Jesus then says the next thing, he says, receive your sight, your faith has saved you. And so I think at a first reading, it's this sort of invitation to ponder the question, well, which is it, Jesus? Are you doing this for the guy, or did his faith save him? And I think the key is in that the first part of the second response that Jesus is. He says, receive your sight, your faith has saved you. And so I think there's this acknowledgement of collaboration between both God's grace and our faith. And the way that we sort of summarize that as a church, we remind ourselves that we are being renewed by God, that God is the one who renews us, who renews our heart, soul, mind, and strength on a day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute basis. But that renewal is for the sake of renewing the world with God. This idea of partnering with God, and in this moment, right, we see that the blind man's healing is this sort of partnership. There's this collaboration in this moment of divine renewal, where Jesus says, "Receive your sight," and so there's this moment of receiving from God, right? And so, that's why when we participate in communion, right, we receive the bread, we receive the wine. This acknowledgement that God is pouring out grace, that there's this reception of His sight. But then Jesus doesn't really stop there. Again, it's not this sort of magical, okay, you're good. But what does He say? He says, receive your sight, your faith has saved you. And so I think there's this recognition that there is this sort of divine collaboration with our brokenness. That the faith that we have in God is this our sort of representing our side of this divine partnership that we're invited into with God's grace, by God's grace, through His mercy, in order that we might participate in this movement of restoration and renewal. And if you don't believe me, let's listen to the Apostle Paul, where he says, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing; it is the gift of God." But there's this partnership. There's this both and of the grace that has saved us through our faith. So today, may we receive God's grace. May we be healed and renewed, and may God's grace and our faith glorify God. And as it says in this passage with the blind man, as we receive God's grace and we respond with our faith, may God be glorified, and may, of course, that moment inspire others to go around praising God. Amen. Amen.